Welcome. We are pleased to have you partnering with Matheson Constructors in our journey towards the successful completion of this project. Please take note of the information on this slide, as it provides you with the project number required for all project documentation, as well as the site supervisor's contact information. Matheson Constructors is committed to providing all individuals with a psychologically and physically healthy and safe work environment throughout all our projects and offices. It is a joint effort that requires all managers and supervisors to continually promote wellness, demonstrate safe work practices, and unwaveringly leading by example to ensure each workplace is properly set up to prevent physical injury or damage. Remember, safety is everyone's responsibility. Matheson Constructors is committed to preventing instances of violence and harassment in all our workplaces. It is the right of every employee to have a workplace free from violence and harassment. Matheson Constructors takes reports of violence and harassment extremely seriously and pledges to fully investigate each instance of violence and harassment for the overall betterment of our workplaces and, most importantly, all individuals who enter them. In Canada, every worker has 3 basic rights: the right to know what hazards are present in the workplace, the right to participate in keeping the workplace healthy and safe, the right to refuse work that you believe to be dangerous to yourself or another person in the workplace. Reporting is an integral part of making sure the workplace is healthy and safe for all individuals. On this project, you are required to report to your supervisor or the site supervisor any of the following you may observe or encounter: unsafe acts or at-risk behaviors, unsafe conditions, near misses, injuries, damage to property, damage to equipment, spills or leaks into the environment. Note, a near miss is anything that occurs where under a different set of circumstances could have led to injury or damage. Refer to the Project Safety Board for information on the Site Joint Health and Safety Committee. As required by legislation, Matheson Constructors projects uses the following schedule to determine the presence of a JHSC on all our projects. 1 to 5 workers, no JHSC is in place. 5 to 19 workers, 1 health and safety representative. 20 to 49 workers, 1 health and safety representative, and a joint health and safety committee with at least 2 members. Over 50 workers, 1 health and safety representative, and a joint health and safety committee with at least 4 members. If you have any concerns, bring them forward to the joint health and safety representative on your site. Matheson Constructors has zero tolerance for any individual being impaired by alcohol and/or drugs on any of our projects. If you are using prescription medication that can negatively affect your ability to safely perform your job duties, you are required to notify your supervisor so that alternate work arrangements can be made. While Matheson Constructors does promote and encourage a positive work environment, we do take horseplay seriously on our sites. Therefore, at no time on a Matheson Constructors project is there to be any fighting, feats of strength, pranks, racing, or running. Cell phone use on site is prohibited, as it may distract workers from nearby hazards. Cell phone use is limited to select individuals, including crew supervisors. Therefore, you should coordinate any phone calls or messaging so that they take place off-site, in a lunchroom, or outside working hours. On all Matheson Constructors projects, there is a progressive disciplinary system. This consists of a 3-strike policy, leading to site suspension or permanent removal. If the infraction is such that it could lead to serious injury to yourself or another individual on site, you may immediately have your site access privileges revoked from this project and any other Matheson Constructors projects in the future. Toolbox talks are an important aspect of ensuring open, two-way communication amongst crews, as well as sharing important safety-related information throughout the site. Toolbox talks are to be conducted by a supervisor and submitted to the Matheson site supervisor weekly. You are required to sign in to site upon arrival, as well as sign out when you are leaving. Sign-in sheets provide the information necessary to conduct a head count in the event of an emergency, so it is of the utmost importance that you sign in and out each day. Hazard assessments are to be completed by each crew on site daily. They are to be handed in to the supervisor before you begin any work on site. Hazard assessments must take into account all tasks you will be performing, the hazards associated with the task, as well as the control measures you will be assigning to each hazard. Every worker involved in performing the task must read, understand, and sign on to the hazard assessment prior to starting work. Supervisors are required to keep workers informed of the hazards present at the workplace. A hazard assessment is one important tool in ensuring this is completed. Please note, photocopying hazard assessment is strictly prohibited and is viewed as a serious infraction on Matheson Constructors projects. You are required to inspect all the tools and equipment you will be using prior to working with them. Inspect your electrical cords to ensure they are in good condition and they have the right grounding pin in place. Working at heights equipment must be inspected each time it is being used by the end user. All supervisors on site are required to perform an inspection of their work areas no less than once per week. Only operate the equipment you are authorized and trained to use. Your training certificates must be valid and on hand with site supervision prior to operating any equipment on site. A pre-use inspection is required to be completed and documented every day prior to using any mobile equipment. Inspections are to be provided to the site supervisor weekly. Drinking water will be provided to you on site. Ensure you drink plenty of fluids while you are working, regardless of the season. Dehydration can occur at any time of the year. You are encouraged to bring reusable, personal use containers to refill your water throughout the day. If you are using single-use plastic containers, ensure you discard them in the proper waste bins. Washroom facilities are available on site. The cleaning is performed on a regular basis, but if you encounter a washroom that requires cleaning or restocking, please notify the site supervisor so this can be completed in a timely manner. Treat washrooms with respect, as they are a shared space amongst all on site. Smoking or vaping is permitted only in designated areas on site. There is absolutely no smoking inside any buildings, offices, or site trailers. Smoking within 9 meters of a doorway or window is always prohibited, according to the Smoke-Free Ontario Act. Keep in mind, vehicles and equipment are considered workplaces in said act. Waste bins are provided throughout the site. You are required to place your trash in these bins. All crews are required to clean up after themselves as they are working, but no less than once daily at the end of each shift. Depending on the waste you are creating throughout the day, you may be required to clean up more frequently to ensure a safe work environment for yourself and others. Hallways and stairwells are always to be kept clear in the event of an emergency. If you are using extension cords, you must string them overhead wherever possible to prevent tripping hazards and excess clutter in the walkways. If you hear an alarm or air horn sound on the project, you are required to immediately stop what you are doing and report to the muster point on site for a head count. Keep in mind that any music being played on site must be kept to a volume low enough that it does not impair your or anyone else's ability to hear a sounded alarm. The muster point will be indicated on the following slide. First aiders for Matheson Constructors will have their names posted on the site safety board. Subcontractors who have greater than 5 workers on site are required to have at least one designated first aider on site at all times. Please review the photo on this slide, as it will help you locate the muster point, first aid station, stretcher location, and locations of fire extinguishers on site. If you are required to transport an injured worker to the hospital, this slide provides you with the nearest hospital to the project. Copies of the map to the nearest hospital can also be found on the site safety board. While working on a Matheson Constructors project, you are always required to wear the following personal protective equipment: CSA-approved footwear, steel-toed, steel shank; CSA-approved hard hat, trim facing forward unless designed to be reversed; high-visibility garments, to be worn indoors and outdoors on your outermost layer of clothing; CSA-approved safety eyewear. Sunglasses are not permitted. If you wear prescription lenses, they must be CSA approved with side shield. If they are not CSA approved, over-the-glasses goggles must be worn. Keep in mind, you have now been notified of the PPE requirements for working on a Matheson Constructors project and your completion of the orientation as you agreeing to work to this PPE standard. If you are unable or unwilling to meet these minimum requirements, please end the orientation now and do not report to site. Additional task-specific PPE may be required over and above the basic requirements on site. Performing your hazard assessment will assist you in determining additional PPE that may be required to safely perform the work. Additional task-specific PPE includes, but is not limited to, monitor for atmospheric testing, hearing protection, face shields, respirators, gloves, harnesses, or other fall protection equipment. While working on a Matheson Constructors project, you will be required to dress accordingly, as this is an active construction site. Therefore, the following are not permitted to be worn on site: shoes or sandals, shorts, tank tops or sleeveless shirts, ripped or loose clothing. Every worker who comes onto a Matheson Constructors project is required to be certified in WMIS. Training must be WMIS 2015, and the certificate must be provided to the site supervisor prior to starting work. Every trade bringing a substance on site must provide a copy of the safety data sheet to the site supervisor prior to working with the substance on site. Every worker using the substance must have reviewed the safety data sheet for the product they will be using prior to working with the substance on site. If there is a spill or release of a substance you are using on site, you must immediately report it to your supervisor and the site supervisor for Matheson. Matheson Constructors observes an 8-foot working at height rule, which means that any time you perform an activity 8 feet or higher above grade, you are required to employ some method of fall protection that adequately protects yourself and any other workers involved in the task. To eliminate any fall hazards, utilize the hierarchy of controls, this being elimination, substitution, engineering, administrative, personal protective equipment. If you are using a guardrail system, you must ensure the guardrails have a top rail, a mid rail, and a toe board in place. If you do not have training that is current within the last 3 years, with a copy of your certificate on file with Matheson Constructors, you are not permitted to work at heights on this project. When lifting heavy or awkward loads, use the buddy system to lessen the strain on your body. Whenever possible, mechanical advantage such as the pallet jack, telehandler, or crane should be utilized to lift heavy loads. When you are required to manually handle material, remember to maintain good posture. Bend at the knees, lift with your legs, maintain a straight back, and avoid twisting while carrying a load. Remember to always maintain a view of your path of travel when carrying anything, so that you can avoid any low-level hazards you may encounter. As with any other equipment you are required to use, you must inspect ladders prior to using them to ensure they are in good condition and will not pose a fall hazard while in use. Remove from service any ladder that is not in good condition, ensuring no one else can use the equipment. Store unused ladders in the folded position, out of the way so that they do not create additional clutter in the workplace. A-frame ladders must only be used when they are fully opened, with the spreader bars locked in place. Do not lean step ladders against a wall or any other structure. They must always be used according to manufacturer's specifications. Extension ladders must be secured at both the top and bottom, with the top extending at least 3 feet above the upper landing, with a 4:1 ratio for ladder placement. Avoid overreaching while working from a ladder. Keep your belly button within the parameters of the ladder to avoid becoming unstable and falling. Always be sure you are able to maintain 3-point contact when using a ladder. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, free access screening is in place on this project. Every individual must complete the mandatory screening daily. Increased cleaning and sanitizing schedules are in place on site in an attempt to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. While working on this project, you must ensure you always observe physical distancing requirements of 6 feet from others. While working indoors, you will be required to wear a mask or covering. The use of a face mask or face covering does not eliminate the requirement for you to wear safety eyewear. If you experience fogging of your safety glasses, it is your responsibility to carry additional pairs of safety eyewear or use an anti-fog spray to keep your lenses clear. You are required to provide copies of your training certificates to the site supervisor prior to working on site. Minimum training requirements for accessing site is WHMIS 2015, MOL Health and Safety Awareness, 4 steps worker, 5 steps supervisor. If you have any additional training relevant to the work you will be performing on site, you will be required to provide that to the site supervisor as well. If you are a supervisor on site, your employer will be required to designate you a competent supervisor and complete the Matheson Constructors Competent Supervisor Declaration form. Thank you for viewing the Matheson Constructors site-specific orientation. You will now be required to complete the remainder of the orientation online, which includes registering your name, completing a series of knowledge verification questions, and submitting your training certificates to Matheson Constructors. Upon completion, you will receive 2 emails from Matheson Constructors. Orientation confirmation, which you must keep for your records as proof of completion. Certificate request, which you will be required to reply to in order to submit your certificates to the site team. Thank you for partnering with Matheson Constructors in the journey to being serious about safety.